Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
All right, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simon's down in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Hey folks, welcome back to the program. Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania with Chris Wyatt Reports to talk to you about today's news with analysis of events from around Africa, around the globe, right here in the United States. And what a way to end the month here. What a crappy way. It's raining and lots of thunderstorms here in central Pennsylvania after a slow day. Actually, I think surprisingly, I actually got 10 kilowatt hours yesterday despite the sun barely shining. Today, it's not shining at all, and it's pretty depressing how little energy is coming from the sun. But hey, alternative energy is the answer. Solar photovoltaic is the answer to all our prayers. It will solve all the world's problems, except it won't. It's not true. It's handy. It works when the sun shines. If your panels aren't stolen. If hail doesn't destroy them, if they function properly, these Chinese-made things. Anyway, welcome back to the program, folks. So let's start with everyone in the chat. I'll say hello. I see Dylan Compricus here. Dylan got in first. Val Cooper also in. Light Rain. Patrick Garrett is here. Janet Lydian from South Carolina. Sue Walsh, greetings to you. Pip Jacobs is back once again. And then good afternoon, says Chris Marie. Welcome to you. Gavin Comer, Mark Sayers, Monray Siebritz, and I said Gavin Comer already. Welcome to all of you. And plus the other, I'd say probably 20 plus people who aren't currently chatting. You are welcome in the program as well. It's a pleasure to have you. Why does my shirt look crooked? It looks like it's not on right there. This is On Sadesev. Yeah, this is from the Solidarity, the trade union in South Africa. I'm not a unionist. I'm not a fan of unions, but this is one union that doesn't upset the apple cart and hurt my feelings. It's overcast in Western PA, says Roy. Okay, Roy. I don't want to say good to hear. That's not good to hear, but it is news. 10:36 on a Wednesday, and of course Wednesdays we do the broadcast a little bit earlier because we have Wednesdays with the Colonel comes up at noon Eastern Standard Time. So busy day for me. Today I've got the following events, just to give you a heads up. I've got this broadcast until noon. I switch right over to Ronaldo, Wednesdays with the Colonel, and from that it's right back here with Kenako, with Dumo Denga and Koketso Retsane. We haven't done that since November. So they're both available. They'll be on the program, and we'll do Kenako for the first time in a few months. Looking forward to that. Then I have got a event for our candidate for the state Senate race, Dawn Kiefer. That's at 5:30. I'll be attending that later today. After that, I need to go back to the VFW for the end of the Gulf War. Today marks the 33rd anniversary of the end of the Desert Storm, Operation Desert Storm in Kuwait. Can you believe that 33 years ago, I, Second Lieutenant Chris Wyatt, was in the crap in combat, and a ceasefire was declared after a 100-hour ground war, much sooner than we ever anticipated. And that's been 33 years. So tonight we'll commemorate that event, a recognition ceremony at the VFW, and then I have to get back to be on the radio. But before then, I have to have an emergency meeting with the officers and directors of the board about events at the post. What a full day. Yep. Been a member of Solidarity for many years, says Pip Jacobs. Okay, cool beans. I am a puddle again today, says Dylan. I don't know what that means. Did you wet yourself or is it raining? Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, hey, so we're going to talk about the primary in Michigan. We're also going to talk about fake news coming from the Washington Post and climate zealots with their nonsense, once again, misleading the low information consumers and voters. And so we're going to talk about that as well as events unfolding around the world. So Daisy Cutters and Desert Storm. Not where I was at. No, there was no need for that. No need for that. We didn't use those where I was at. All right, so this is the first question I'm going to ask. After years of delay, after years of postponement, after demands that the trial be held up, the state of South Africa is not prepared to prosecute Zandile Gumede. Is this an intentional effort by the ANC bureaucracy to tank the case and have the case dismissed against her? The judge is very angry that the state has not processed chain of evidence records for the defense. So what are we seeing here? Is this an intentional undermining of prosecution to let an ANC cater off the hook? Well, you might suspect that. I know I do. That's my supposition here. So get your act together or you may have to pay, judge tells state in Zandile Gumede corruption trial. The apparent unpreparedness of the state in the racketeering trial against former eThekwini Mayor Zandile Gumede and 21 others relating to 320 million rand Durban solid waste contract again came under the spotlight yesterday. Faced with another adjournment because the state had not supplied all the chain of evidence documents, advocate Graham Kerr-Phillips, who was representing three of the accused, told presiding judge Charmaine Bolton that this was the 19th time proceedings had been halted for this reason. Bolton has warned the state several times that it needs to get its act together. Well, I agree. 19 times. This is unheard of. Now listen, Zandile Gumede may very well be guilty of corruption, but she deserves her day in court, as do the other 21 accused. They must be prosecuted. This nonsense of a state unprepared. How can you, after all these years, be unprepared? What kind of morons run the African National Congress and run the bureaucracy in South Africa? Well, the worst kind, obviously. So the bottom line here is that this is unacceptable and it must be addressed by the state. It looks to me as if they're trying to have the case dismissed against Zandile Gumede without prejudice, which is shocking to say the least. Well, speaking of shocking and unusual, it was very unusual what happened in a parliamentary committee hearing about South African Airways. Yep. Pravin Gordhan, the incompetent boob who is responsible for public enterprises, closed the doors as they listened to evidence on South African Airways. He requested an in-camera hearing and that members of parliament sign non-disclosure agreements before he shows them documents that led to the selection of Takatso as an equity partner for SAA. This should send red flags to everyone. If there's a need to hide how Takatso got the sweetheart deal of 51 million rand to buy an entire airline, well, then I think perhaps that there may be something untoward going on here. The opposition, EFF and Democratic Alliance, Freedom Front Plus, ACTP should be screaming right now to find out why this was an in-camera and statements of non-disclosure were signed. Why? Why are they hiding? You see, folks, South African Airways doesn't belong to the ANC. It doesn't belong to the ANC. It belongs to the people of South Africa. It is a public enterprise. It is a state-run failed airline. Therefore, the public is, oh, wow. Oh, for just a second there, my fans stopped for a second there. They've been running full speed for like a week now. It's been driving me nuts. And suddenly it got quiet here, but now they picked right back up. Don't know what's going on with the coolant in this computer. Anyway, it's a public enterprise and all of its information should be available. The fact that they sold it to a private entity and hid the sale and now they're having in-camera closed-door sessions to discuss what is happening at South African Airways should send red flags up for everybody. Everybody. Yep. You should be very concerned about this. Woolworths, another disappointing story from a South African corporation, another loss. We talked about the reduction in profit for Sasol, the loss for Sibanye-Stillwater, and a host of other companies in South Africa. Woolworths, half-year earnings dive as consumers spend less. Woolies report a 7.5% fall in half-year earnings as South African consumers feel the pinch and are cutting back on non-essential items. Woolies said the main impact of the decline in earnings could be attributed to an increasingly challenging macroeconomic backdrop given the sustained effect of interest rate increases and higher living costs. Woolies headline earnings per share from continuing operations fell from 203.3 cents to 219, so it fell 16 cents. In terms of operations, that's a 3% decline overall. Not good news for Woolies. Yet another company feeling the pinch as South Africa is under the knife. Economically, under the knife, no doubt owing to the incompetence and macroeconomic racist policies of the ruling African National Congress, as well as their foolish decisions when it comes to interest rates and curbing inflation. Well, South Africa is making strides to get off the gray list, or so we're told. Yes. Uma Rabaji Ratsahaba said the MPA is working hard to see South Africa removed from the gray list. Well, that's good news. Ratsahaba said the big challenge is recovering funds from outside the country. The National Prosecuting Authority is looking at working with law firms and private investigators to recover some of the money. South Africa has only addressed 5 of the 23 action items needed to take the country off the gray list. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa will continue to be gray listed for being a facilitator of terrorism and racketeering and illicit criminal activity because of its negligence when it comes to financial oversight of the marketplace, the banking sector, and the transfer of funds. South Africans are suffering as a consequence of this. Other businesses throughout the country have had to adapt their business models to dealing with higher costs as a consequence of being a gray-listed country, something no one wants to be part of. Well, the KwaZulu-Natal government is going to build a palace for King Mzuzulu Kwazweletini. So let me ask you this question, folks. Are all the people that live in the province of KwaZulu-Natal members of the Zulu nation? Are they all members of the Zulu nation? They are, aren't they? I mean, Erica used to live there. She's a Zulu, right? Lynn lives there. She's a Zulu. My friend John Tunge must be a Zulu. He lives in Howick. Chris Pappas must be a Zulu. He speaks Zulu, therefore he must be Zulu, right? I mean, so the government of KwaZulu-Natal is buying a palace for a king in a non-existent monarchy. The KZN government announced plans to build a new palace for the king of the Zulu. This was revealed by Premier Nomusa Dube Nkube during the State of the Province address Wednesday. In consultation with His Majesty, we are finalizing plans to build a new palace for the king in Nongombo. The palace will be in addition to the 6 existing palaces. Wow. Home to the late King Goodwill Zweletini's widows. Dube Nkube said this is part of the ANC government's recognition of the existential right and support of traditional leadership. As part of this responsibility, over the past years, we have fenced all 6 palaces, bought vehicles for the Queen Mother and the Queens, provided financial support for education for the prince and princesses, and continue to render financial support for all. Wow. Part of the government's demonstration that accords respect to our monarch and our royal household. Except he's not your monarch. That is not your royal household. There are millions of people living in KwaZulu-Natal, many of whom have nothing to do with the Zulu monarchy. This is a fraud. This is a theft from the taxpayer. This is unacceptable. The Zulu kingdom should finance the Zulu kingdom, not the government of South Africa. This handouts to traditional kings and monarchies is ludicrous, especially for countries that were defeated in conquest. The Zulu nation was defeated in conquest repeatedly, and it does not exist as a political entity. The closest it comes to that is the Inkatha Freedom Party. Drakensberg's DA mayor has been removed from office and voted no confidence. Drakensberg Municipality Mayor Conrad Poole has been removed from his position. Opposition parties tabled a motion against him during a council sitting today. He was involved in an alleged pay-for-job scandal, which prompted an independent investigation by the municipality back in September. It's alleged members of the mayor's executive have been paying him monthly kickbacks. News 24 says that the DA's top brass were present during the council meeting. Who are the top brass? DA provincial leader Tertius Simmers said it notes the removal of Poole. However, this is what the DA had to say. Drakensberg is one of the best-run municipalities in the country, as confirmed by their back-to-back clean audit reports and many service delivery accolades. The DA assures residents that service delivery will continue unaffected, and since we have a majority in council, a new DA mayor will be elected in due course. In the interim, Deputy Mayor Gerrit Kombrink will take over the responsibilities of the office of mayor. Well, ANC spokesman Khalid Syed welcomed the removal. He said, having put forward an ordinary motion of no confidence, the ANC welcomes the ousting of the mayor by the majority council. Not only is the opposition united to remove this allegedly corrupt DA mayor, certain voices within the DA supported the right and ethical thing to do. Well, and I do appreciate that ANC spokesperson Khalid Syed said that he's allegedly corrupt because he hasn't been found guilty of corruption. But yeah, they've lost confidence in him. And when you have a system like this that doesn't function, you cannot run provinces and cities based on parliamentary rule. It does not work. We've seen this in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, over and over again. It is a foolish political system that simply does not work and should be curtailed. South African Airways finances remain a thing of debate. They're in the clouds of turbulence, according to the Auditor General. Although the South African Airways managed to table 4 financial years' worth of annual reports and financial statements to Parliament by the end of last year, which they were in arrears for, the Office of the Auditor General remains worried about problems hindering its ability to guarantee continued operations as a going concern. These words spell out pretty clearly that South African Airways, a corrupt airline, a failed airline that's being propped up by the state through taxpayer funds, should be dismantled and taken apart. Never mind the fact that Pravin Gordhan had just had a closed in-camera session about why and how Takatso, a private organization, got 51% stake in South African Airways. Well, once again, folks, the fake news, this time Washington Post. Washington Post says South African city copes with climate change by chopping down trees. Catherine Hureld, oh geez, just one author on this one, I'm impressed. So a team from Lete Services works to clear the Cape Mountains in South Africa of thirsty alien vegetation so that indigenous fynbos can be planted. Climate change is already taking a severe toll on Cape Town, contributing to worsening droughts that threaten to leave the city's taps dry. No. That's a lie. That's fake news. That's dishonest. That is not even remotely the entire picture. Simply not true. Just a year ago, all the reservoirs in Cape Town were lapping over the top at over 100%. Yet they're claiming there's a drought going on here. It's a lie. It's a lie. Conservationists here are frantically chopping down trees and even contemplating burning them down. While preserving the world's forests is widely considered essential to combating climate change, scientists in South Africa determined that the invasive tree species are sucking up so much groundwater that the area is better off eliminating the trees. Invasive black wattle, pine, and gum trees crowd the jagged slopes that encircle the region's sprawling winelands, displacing native vegetation and choking off precious water that would otherwise trickle into the city's reservoirs. Projections of hydrologists show that getting rid of foreign tree species can produce an extra 2 months of water for Cape Town. Well, if you have a gray water usage plan, stop the 30 to 45% of water lost through leaky pipes, you'd have a hell of a lot more water in Cape Town too. Yeah. So they're taking a true story of alien species invading the fynbos, which is true, and devastating the fynbos, and they're trying to turn that into a climate change story, which is just utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Unbelievable, this garbage. So here you go. Here's a picture from this story in the Washington Post. The Tivadaskloof Dam is the largest dam in the Western Cape water supply system. Below average rainfall since 2015 has caused its water levels to drop to critical levels. Factually untrue. It was filled at over 100% a year ago. This is simply a lie. Simply a lie. And no context given here. Yep. Of course, 5 years ago, the city was within weeks of day zero when authorities warned they would shut off domestic taps. Yeah, it was like trying to squeeze water out of a rock. We reduced pressure in the pipes until it was a trickle. Yeah, but this is just nonsense. Nonsense. Many of the Cape's most iconic species, cone bushes, proteas, and ericas, need fires to reproduce because the flowers won't release their seeds unless there is fire. Fire is a natural occurrence, and stopping it leads to this problem as well. So these are all just fairy tales here. Yep. Wow. It's total nonsense. It's fake climate zealots once again. Well, Ken Anston, what the heck does the Washington Post know about this? Probably very little, but I guarantee you that the Washington Post didn't write this. This is a South African who wrote it, most likely. Let's go back to the article and see if I can find a link to the author, who's probably based in South Africa. The New York Times and the Washington Post do not have journalists in South Africa. So Catherine Hureld, let's see who she is. She's based in Nairobi. So she's writing a report that someone told her what to say. Yep. Yeah, she is based in Nairobi, not even in South Africa. And she's writing this story. This is what they do. This is climate zealotry. These people are of a demonic faith that abhors God and believes in the genius of human beings, but only select ones. Well, a Cape Town lawyer who paid underage street children 100 Rand for anal sex has been found guilty. Cape Town lawyer who sexually exploited street children, paid the amounts of 100 Rand for sexual deeds, was found guilty of charges of statutory rape, sexual exploitation of a child, and engaging in sexual services of a person 18 years or older. Theo Hotzenberg, a former legal aid attorney, was convicted in the Wynberg Regional Court. State said it will be calling for the court to impose a maximum sentence for the prescribed minimum sentence for sexual exploitation of children, which is 15 years of direct imprisonment. He pled not guilty to the charges brought against him. However, there were witnesses to it. He had a lookout. Wow. Witnesses said the boys would enter and go to the adjacent bungalow where they would get in one by one to have sex with Hartzenberg. He would pay them 100 Rand each. Well, the court doesn't have to worry about his sentence because this man will not last long in prison. Child molesters tend to be murdered in prison, unfortunately for them. South Africa's rhino poaching continues unabated, and a story that's being neglected and ignored by most media finally makes it into the foreign press again today. Conservationists have raised the alarm about South Africa's sharp increase in rhino poaching, with 500 rhinos killed last year alone. The country is home to a large majority of the world's rhinos and a hotspot for poaching, which is driven by demand by penis erection fans in Asia, where horns are used in traditional medicine for erections. Give them Viagra. The Environment Ministry said despite government efforts to tackle the illicit trade, 499 were killed in 2023, an 11% increase over the 2022 figure. Yeah, and rhino is poached every 17 hours in South Africa. The lion's share were poached in eastern KwaZulu-Natal province, with the Hluwe Imfolozi Park lost 307 of them alone. This is a scourge, and why doesn't the ANC stop it? Kenya stopped this. The Leakeys stopped their poaching of elephants in Kenya with a shoot-to-kill order. And then Botswana has largely prevented poaching with shoot-to-kill orders. Why is South Africa not stopping poaching? Is it because members of the government bureaucracy are complicit in the poaching? One begins to wonder. This should be something that should have been stamped out a long time ago. Namibia raises its economic forecast for this year and for next year. Namibia's economic estimate of 5.6% last year and 4% this year, up from projections of 3.5% and 2.9%. That's very good news. 5.6 is still a good percentage below what they need to lift Namibians out of poverty, but it's a good start. Strong growth is anchored by upbeat activities in the natural resource sector, including the residual impact of ongoing petroleum exploration and a surge in uranium production following price increases. But once again, Namibia lacks any indigenous industrial capacity or service capacity. Virtually all services in Namibia are provided by South African firms. All restaurants, banking services all come from South Africa. There's nothing indigenous, almost nothing indigenous in Namibia, and this is a major problem in the country of 2.8 million people. In neighboring Botswana, the Bolt ride-sharing service is coming to fro. They're launching Bolt, and they're waiving driver commissions for 6 months. Bolt, the Estonian ride-hailing company, is launching in Gaborone and compete in a market with only one other ride-hailing player, InDrive. Bolt will not charge typical commission from drivers, usually between 15 and 20% of the ride free, for 6 months. The company said 100 drivers have been onboarded so far. Bolt's launch in Botswana continues to come as expansion to Southern Africa. It's launched in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Namibia in the last 6 months. It's the 14th African country where we'll find Bolt. A Zimbabwean court sentences opposition leader for insulting Russian businesswoman. Now, this is a particularly disturbing story about a communist country led by kleptocrats, Zimbabwe, where the former finance minister who saved Zimbabwe from total collapse as part of the movement for democratic change, Tendai Biti, is found guilty after a 4-year trial, draining him, sapping of his personal funds over him calling someone stupid. Can you believe this? This is a misuse of the court system. You can call anybody stupid. Good Lord. Zimbabwe court sentences opposition leader for insulting Russian businesswoman. A court in Zimbabwe sentenced opposition leader 6 months in prison or a $300 fine for verbally assaulting a Russian businesswoman. Magistrate Vongai Gurio ruled that Tendai Biti, the former Zimbabwean finance minister, must pay the fine or go to prison, ending a 4-year legal battle between him and Tatiana Aleshina, who court papers say was a Russian investor. He paid the fine. Alek Muchadenema, Biti's attorney, told reporters outside the Harare Magistrates Court Tuesday that Biti would appeal the sentence and conviction. State prosecutors accused Biti of calling Aleshina stupid and pointing at her in 2020. Pointing at her. He pointed at her. And for that, he faces a criminal conviction. He pointed at her. Ooh, what a horrible crime. He didn't rape her. He didn't murder her. He didn't defraud her. He didn't steal from her. He did not use racially vindictive language against her. He did not call for harm to her. He simply called her stupid and pointed at her. And for that, he's a criminal in the eyes of the corrupt ZANU-PF kleptocracy. Now, for her part, this Russian businesswoman, who apparently isn't stupid, said the ruling was a victory for women. Zimbabwe has got justice, even if it's taken 4 long years, but I learned a lot. I realized if we women can't stand for our rights, justice will not be revealed. And I have nothing to do with Tenda Beatty or anyone, but let him learn good lessons. Respect women, and respect not only women, but everyone in this country. Seriously? Because you were called stupid, it's misogyny? Shut the frick up. I'm so sick of this nonsense. So people who aren't white Christian males cannot be criticized or called out for what they are: frauds, thieves, dumb, idiotic, moronic. You can't say that about people who are not white Christian males. Futsec. Make this about your gender. You're such a loser. Ooh, you're going to take me to court in Zimbabwe? You're going to take me to court in Zimbabwe? Good luck with that, Tatiana. Her supporters outside the court said Beatty should have been given no fine option and sent to prison for calling her stupid. He should be go to jail and be gang raped because he called her stupid. Wow. These people need to be horsewhipped. Oh, yeah, that's right. They need to be horsewhipped. Unbelievable nonsense going on here. Wow. How many times do you call someone stupid or even idiot? Is it a crime to point at someone? Yeah. Agnes Togarapai said Biddy was innocent. She's right. His colleague Job Sikala, who spent nearly 2 years in jail, was given a 9-month suspended sentence. If he pays a $500 fine, he was convicted of publishing falsehoods. In other words, you said the truths about ZANU-PF, and that's considered a falsehood. This is sick. It's twisted. It's beyond comprehension. But it is the world we live in, where these fools, these leftists, take control of governments and abuse the legal system. Look at the United States. Look at Alvin Bragg. Look at Fannie Willis. Look at Letitia James. All fraudulent criminal charges against Donald Trump. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The abuse and contortion of the legal system to take out your political opponents. And make no mistake, Tendai Biti is the guy who saved Zimbabwe. And this is his reward from the scumbags in the ZANU-PF corrupt judicial system. The Nigerian Naira hits a fresh low despite a jumbo rate hike. Monetary policy rate increased by 400 basis points or 4 percentage points to 22.75, but the currency hit a record low despite the increased rate. Nigeria, well, another reason why they're having problems, imposing minimum annual levy on hiring expat workers. Nigeria has imposed a mandatory annual levy for organizations employing expatriate workers, requiring them to pay $15,000 for a director and $10,000 for other categories. The move is meant to encourage foreign companies to employ more Nigerian workers. Staff of diplomatic missions and government officials are exempt. Of course they are, because if you try to pull that crap, you'll violate the Vienna Conventions and you will see sanctions coming your way. Nigeria, you have no authority over what embassies do. Nope. Diplomatic missions. So the government can hire foreign nationals to work and they don't have to pay the fees. But private enterprises have to pay the fee because they've hired someone who's capable of doing something. Never mind the fact that the foreign national, Ghanaian, American, New Zealander, South African, Brit, Moroccan, who goes to work in Nigeria is more talented, more effective, more successful, generates revenue and jobs and taxes for Nigeria. Never mind that. These morons are going to punish you because you didn't hire a Nigerian. This is called interference in the free marketplace. This is the nonsense that destroys economies. Nigeria can ill afford to have this sort of stupidity. If the best people for the job, because Nigeria doesn't produce the best people for the job, are other people who are willing to go live in oppressively humid and dangerous Nigeria, then more power to them. Idiots. Well, more great news for Nigeria, where unions are going on strike. Nigeria's union workers on strike nationwide over soaring inflation and unmet promises. Well, this is going to help a lot. Not. Nigeria's government employees and other union workers began a new nationwide strike that threatened to shut down key services. Since assuming office, President Bola Tinubu has enacted policies that include doing away with fuel subsidies and unifying the country's multiple exchange rates, leading to devaluation of the naira. Gasoline prices more than doubled. Inflation has shot up as a result, reaching close to 30% last month, the highest in nearly 3 decades. Of course, that just means that Nigerians, like the rest of us, will pay the world market price for fuel instead of being subsidized. Like the Saudis are one of the countries still do that. And they should be paying world market price. Government fixed pricing and subsidies for consumer goods and resources is immoral. Senegal's panel, there's a panel saying that they recommend that Macky Sall stay in office beyond his term and elections occur in June. Senegal's National Dialogue Commission will propose a delayed presidential election to be held in June instead of February when it was supposed to be held, and recommended President Macky Sall remain in office until a successor is sworn in, Commission member Nadia Opaye said. Despite the fact the Constitution doesn't allow this, this is what they're recommending. The date proposal follows 2 days of dialogue organized by Macky Sall himself as a way to ease tensions. His and Parliament's failed bid to postpone the 25 February poll by 10 months sparked unrest and warnings of democratic backsliding. So they're still backsliding. Unbelievable. Speaking of Senegalese, more than 70 Senegalese illegal criminal alien invaders are discovered living in cramped New York City basement where they sleep in shifts. Dozens of criminal alien men have been living in a cramped basement in a Queens furniture store where beds are so in demand that only half the inhabitants can sleep there at one time. Fire prevention inspectors discovered the illegal boarding house Monday night when they're called to 13202 Liberty Avenue in South Richmond Hill to investigate reports of a large collection of e-bike batteries. That's when they found 40 migrants, mostly from Senegal, sleeping in the basement and on the first floor, and realized the true number is actually twice that. Inspectors from the City Department of Buildings found that the commercial space and the cellar had been illegally converted into a makeshift hostel, replete with 14 bunk beds and the first floor 13 regular beds. The cellar had no ventilation, no natural light, illegal plumbing, and too few exits for the amount of people sleeping there. So when all these people asphyxiate in a fire and die, we'll be blamed for it. When they've invaded our sovereignty and came here illegally, put them on a boat and send them back to Senegal right now, today. Unbelievable. An expatriate who really angered people in Sri Lanka. He was tried to organize a white-only party in Sri Lanka, is forced to flee the country after a huge backlash. Advertisements circulated online of the racist and disgusting event, as it's labeled. A Russian expatriate who was living in Sri Lanka fled the country after attempting to organize a white party, which was met with huge backlash, branding it racist and disgusting. Here's the advert, and you see them pointing down here. It's the opening white party. Nothing wrong with a white party. That's clothing people wear. Excuse me a second here, folks. I've got to take this call. Okay. Actually, I'll take it later. Don't know who that was. Somebody called me. So I'll call them back later. Okay. Yeah, I can see down here. But it's not just a white party for clothing. They have face control white. Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch. Well, that's not good. Whites only. That's abhorrent. What kind of nonsense is that? Russian is sent packing for that conduct and behavior. Emmanuel Macron from France has got tongues wagging and people nervous after he talked about sending his French troops to fight Ukraine's battles for them. Macron's Ukraine troop talk shakes up NATO allies. He floats the idea of the West sending troops to Ukraine. His comments spark a backlash amongst allies, and French officials say Macron wants to simulate debate. They say only non-combat roles under discussion. No, there should be no roles under discussion. French President Emmanuel Macron wanted to create strategic ambiguity by openly discussing the idea of sending Western troops to Ukraine, but he was so ambiguous that he sparked confusion and irritation among some allies. His comments may turn out to be prescient and pave the way for greater direct Western involvement in the war in Ukraine against Russia's invasion somewhere down the line. Ladies and gentlemen, we must remove the Biden regime from office in November before they send American troops to die in Ukraine for their war to cover up Biden, Clinton, and Obama's crimes in Russia. We must do this before American lives are sacrificed soon. Joe Biden has fueled a proxy war intentionally to cover up his crimes in Ukraine and in Russia, and it is time to remove this boil from the electorate. Well, the Kremlin has warned NATO about sending troops. The warning came in response to comments by Macron. Provocative comment by French President about the possibility of putting troops from NATO countries in Ukraine has prompted a warning from the Kremlin and hurried efforts by European leaders to distance themselves from the suggestion. The Kremlin warned Tuesday that a ground intervention by any NATO country would lead to direct clash between the Western military alliance and Russian forces, fraught with potential dangers. And let me just tell you how this will play out, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you how this will play out. If a NATO country puts troops into Ukraine, Russia will cross the border and occupy Lithuania and Estonia, or Latvia and Estonia, overnight. Their militaries will be crushed and they'll occupied and their economies destroyed. Overnight. It takes only a few hours to go from the border of Estonia to Saaremaa Island. Only a few hours. The entire country will be occupied in hours. Unbelievable. Well, former Attorney General has branded the British Broadcasting Corporation institutionally anti-Semitic. Sir Michael Ellis said the BBC accepted Hamas's claims too readily while treating information released by Israeli officials with skepticism. The BBC has been labeled institutionally anti-Semitic over perceived bias in its coverage of the Israel-Hamas war. It's actually the Hamas war. In a Westminster Hall debate Tuesday about the BBC's impartiality, former Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis said the public broadcaster is effectively becoming complicit in Hamas's well-orchestrated disinformation campaign. Since the war broke out in October, foreign journalists have relied heavily on local freelancers and information provided by Israeli officials and the Hamas terrorist group since they can't get into Gaza without military escort. The BBC has been criticized heavily for refusing to directly call Hamas a terrorist group and over a number of reports that included unsubstantiated allegations against Israel for which it has apologized. Sir Michael accused the broadcaster of accepting Hamas's claims too readily while treating information released by Israeli officials with skepticism. The Jewish member of parliament referenced the broadcaster's report on the bombing of the Al-Halabi Arab hospital in October, saying it was the most dangerous example. Yep. There you go. So, BBC called out for its anti-Semitism. We've known about this. Well, finally, decades later, one of these scumbags has been captured. The Red Army faction, the RAF in Germany, has the Baader-Meinhof gang finally got one of these scumbags has been captured. Daniela Kletta was living in broad daylight, living in plain sight in Berlin. She wanted connection with the bombing of a prison and violent robberies. 65-year-old scumbag, one of Germany's most wanted fugitive, was arrested on Monday after living in plain sight just miles from the seat of government that the police say she fought to overthrow in the 1990s. Daniela Kletta, who had been evading police for decades, was wanted connection with the bombing of a prison in 1993. Police say they believe she was a guerrilla with Red Army faction originally known as the Baader-Meinhof gang, Germany's most infamous post-war terrorist group. During her time in hiding, police say she and two accomplices, Ernst Volker Staub and Burkhard Garweg, who are also wanted in connection with Red Army faction activities, committed at least 13 violent robberies, netting them about 2 million euros. Heavily armed police officers apprehended Miss Kletta, the morose, creepy 65-year-old, in the Kreuzberg neighborhood of Berlin in a rental apartment in plain beige 8-story building where the Berlin Wall once stood. When she was arrested, she presented an Italian passport bearing a fake name. Police also said they found 2 ammunition magazines and bullets in the apartment, but no gun. There you go. Arrest comes after years-long search during which police sifted through thousands of clues, many of which led to nowhere. Terrorists can never feel safe, not even after 30 years, said Daniela Behrens, the state minister responsible for police in Hanover. There you go. So that scumbag has been arrested, finally, long overdue. Well, let's turn our attention to the United States of America. Die Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika. Let's turn our attention there, folks. Michigan primaries occurred last night. That's correct. And one Donald John Trump shellacked Nikki Haley. But that's not how the press are reporting it. And Joe Biden won convincingly in the Democratic primary, but that's not how the media are portraying it. And let me give you an analysis of what really happened here, okay? Donald Trump won Iowa with a field of competitors of 51%. Then the field narrowed to basically just Nikki Haley, and he won 54% in New Hampshire. Then he won South Carolina, 56%. Now he has won 68.2%. And they're going to term this as trouble for Trump. Every primary, he has increased his percentage of the vote. And he won more votes last night than Joe Biden did in a Democratic state. Donald Trump, 756,851 votes. He gets 12 delegates. Not all of the 50-plus delegates are being awarded today. The rest will be awarded at a party caucus that takes place in a few weeks. But today, because they set the primary illegally, and so the party can only award 16 delegates today. So Trump got 2/3 of the delegates, or 3/4, I should say. And Nikki Haley got 294,884 votes. Uncommitted got 3%. So Trump gets nearly 70% of the vote, and look at that. He won the entire state. Not a single county did he lose. The closest he came is in Washtenaw County, where she was within 6 points of him, 50-44. But I believe that's where Ann Arbor is, University of Michigan. 59-35, 58-36, 59-34, 79-17% here, 76%, 81% for Trump. Yeah, but they term this as Trump is in trouble. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Joe Biden has won 81% of the Democratic primary with 618,000 votes, but 101,100 people voted uncommitted. Marianne Williamson, the hopeless Greenie, is still there with 22,000 votes, and Dean Phillips got 20,000 votes. Between they got 5.7% of the vote. But Joe Biden rolls to victory here, getting all 109 delegates from the Democratic Party. And isn't that interesting? So here's what CNN's story is. Warning sign. Where'd it go? What happened there? Ah, you turds. You turds. They got rid of it. I hate that. Okay, see that? That's just annoying. CNN changes their page. The page was warning signs for Biden and Trump. And the warning signs had to do, CNN's so unreliable. The warning signs had to do with Biden having 101,000 uncommitted votes, but that really doesn't mean anything. Those people are still going to vote for Joe Biden in the fall. It doesn't matter what they say now. He's not going to change his policy on Israel because of them. He doesn't listen to anyone, so why would he listen to Dearborn voters? 101,000 Michiganders in the Democratic Party voted against Joe Biden. So anyway, and Donald Trump, with winning 70% of the vote, with an opponent still in the race who was heavily funded by the Koch brothers and has money to spread lies and mischief about Trump every single day on social media, and he still got 70% of the vote, and he got more votes than Joe Biden in a state that is Democratic, and Trump's in trouble? No, I don't think so. Those Republicans will come back in the fall. There's no way they'll elect Joe Biden. It's just nonsense. They can moan all they want. They can complain all they want, but they'll be back. And if they're not, then we can blame them for the destruction of America. Arab Americans vow to swing the Michigan vote for Trump. Some Arab Americans feel that Biden may be taking their vote for granted, and they campaign for this uncommitted. What started as a grassroots initiative among Arab and Muslim voters in Michigan a few weeks ago has now expanded to a nationwide campaign to voice disapproval of President Joe Biden's stance on Gaza. Some believe the campaign gains further traction among voters. It could negatively impact Biden's prospects in Michigan and other swing states. Now, if anything, Biden is probably one in deeper trouble here. 100,000 Democratic voters went to the primary and didn't vote for him, plus another 6% who voted for the other two candidates. But that's not really germane. It's 101,000. And the reason for that is Michigan is a state in 2016 that Donald Trump won by just a handful of votes. A handful of votes. And if Democratic voters are going to turn against Biden because they're angry at him, well, that bodes poorly. Or if they just don't show up. Arab and Muslim community leaders in the Rust Belt state have launched a campaign encouraging voters to select uncommitted. And they did it. They did it. 101,000. The target for that campaign was 10,000 uncommitted votes. They got 101,000. Michigan is home to the largest community of Arab and Muslim Americans, 146,000 of whom voted for Joe Biden in 2020. The president doesn't change course. They're determined to swing the state in favor of Donald Trump. People have started thinking maybe it's time for us to become Republicans, Fatima Salman from Oakland County, Michigan, told the Epoch Times, one of the grassroots organizers. She says the war in Gaza is a much bigger issue than the so-called Muslim ban imposed by President Trump. Of course, that's a lie. See, this is an idiot and uninformed voter. Trump never had a Muslim ban. It's a lie. And the Republicans are responsible for allowing Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and the frauds in the media to tell people it was Muslim. There was no Muslim ban. Never happened. Fiction, pure lies. But people still remember it. Well, the United States Army is slashing jobs. This is the New York Times. They think that being in the military is a job. It's not a job, you morons. It is a calling. And slashing positions and troop strengths is not cutting jobs. That's how disconnected these idiots are from reality. The Army is slashing thousands of jobs in a focus on Russia and China. Recent events suggest the U.S. military will face challenges in the Middle East for years to come, even as it tries to shift priorities. The job cuts, they're not job cuts. They're 24,000 positions as the Pentagon continues to shift its priority, counting Chinese and Russian military might after decades of focusing on the fight against terrorism. Yeah. Army numbers swelled almost 600,000 during the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Swelled, excuse me. In 1990, the Army was 787,000 active duty soldiers. It didn't swell to 600,000. It dropped to less than 500,000 and then was increased back to 600,000. Get your facts right, New York Times. Wow. Very misleading. Well, Alabama is reeling over a decision that claims that in vitro fertilized eggs are lives. The Alabama is reeling from a state court decision that frozen embryos are human beings, and Republicans are going to have to figure out how to respond to this. The Alabama Supreme Court this month ruled that frozen embryos are human beings, and those who destroy them can be held liable for wrongful death, sending the state's fertility industry into chaos. In vitro fertilization advocates are expected to rally outside the state capitol in Montgomery on Wednesday. Meanwhile, lawmakers are scrambling to push through legislation that would shield IVF providers from legal punishment, including one Republican-backed bill scheduled to be heard on the state's House floor. At least 3 providers in Alabama, including the state's largest health system, have halted some in vitro fertilization services since the court's ruling. So I'm a little confused. So people who are in favor of in vitro fertilization oppose this bill. Why would you oppose it? You want life to be created, don't you? Or do you think once a life has been created, it's your decision simply to destroy it because you own it? Is that what's at risk here? It's a very confusing situation, people on both sides. President Biden is issuing an executive order aimed at protecting Americans' sensitive data from China. Executive order centers on the business of selling people's personal information, which companies and so-called data brokers collect and trade data. U.S. President Joe Biden will issue an executive order Wednesday intended to safeguard the personal data of American citizens from countries deemed hostile. Centers on the business of selling. Okay, so the order focused on specific sensitive information like genomic data, biometric, personal health. Hostile countries can use the data. Sale of Americans' data significantly raises significant privacy, counterintelligence, blackmail risk, said the White House. There's only one problem with this, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden does not have the authority to do this. Once again, a rogue, out-of-control chief executive. The President of the United States has authority over the executive branch. He cannot sign an executive order establishing law directing companies that they can't do this. For instance, Ancestry.com is no longer an American company. The Mormons sold us down the river by selling it to the Brits several years ago, and they promptly raised the prices and reneged on the lifelong promise of a fixed price for the site. I was a charter subscriber to Ancestry.com and is supposed to be paying $155 into perpetuity for my website there. But the scumbag Brits who bought the site failed to charge my credit card and then blamed me and restarted my membership, which had been in existence for years. So Ancestry.com would be prevented from sharing DNA data with the Brits. So Ancestry.com will cease to operations in DNA, most likely as a consequence of this executive order, which is illegal. If the government is concerned about this data being sold abroad, then Congress must draft a bill. It must pass the House and Senate. Then the president can sign into law, and then it has effect. Joe Biden doesn't simply wave a pen and make decisions like this. He has no authority over me, none whatsoever. He has no authority over you, none whatsoever, unless you work for the federal government or you serve in the U.S. military. The scientists, yes, Trump signed executive orders. Executive orders are perfectly legal, provided they're within the scope of the President of the United States. They all sign executive orders. Well, Google's Gemini excuses pedophilia. Yeah, that's right, pedos. Google's Gemini chatbot soft on pedos. Individuals cannot control who they're attracted to, according to Gemini. More chaos and confusion over Google's corrupt artificial intelligence platform, which decides that the founding fathers were black and that female Asians were actually popes of the Catholic Church. Recent interactions with Google's Gemini chatbot have sparked discussions, concerns regarding its programmed responses to provocative questions, including its apologist stance on pedos. When prompted to address the morality of pedos, the chatbot produced answers that refrain from direct condemnation, opting for a nuanced approach that distinguishes attractions from actions. Not all individuals with pedo have committed or will commit abuse, Gemini said. In fact, many actively fight their urges and never harm a child. Labeling all individuals with pedo interest is evil, is inaccurate and harmful. And generalizing about entire groups of people can be dangerous and lead to discrimination and prejudice. Seriously? So that's what artificial intelligence has brought us? Tolerance for abusing minors? And distortions and falsehoods about history? Wow. Boy, AI is so cool. Thank goodness we got that stuff, huh? Aren't you glad we got AI? Well, a Brooklyn neighborhood is terrified after a shopkeeper is murdered over a $2 cigar. Is this Pretoria or is it New York City? A Brooklyn neighborhood is on edge after a bodega worker is executed by a gunman allegedly upset after being denied a free cigar. As one resident railed, "You can't just live a normal life anymore. It's sad. He didn't used to bother anyone." Crown Heights resident Barbara, 62, said Tuesday, a day after 37-year-old Nazim Berry was shot in the back of the head by a killer who remains on the loose. Barry had worked at the Amin Deli as a clerk and was often seen cleaning up outside or stocking shelves. But on Monday at around 4:15, he was shot during an argument that was set off when he refused to give a crazed customer a free black and mild cigar that sells for about $2. The customer had left the store and came back with a gun and shot him in front of the store. The shooting left residents concerned about violence in the city. It's getting so that you can't just live a normal life anymore. Somebody comes up and asks you for $1, you have to wonder, is this person going to kill me if I say no? This is the man who was shot dead. A 37-year-old man whose life is ended by a scumbag criminal. And there's the criminal. Police released footage of this scumbag. One of his co-workers said the shooter didn't appear to be a regular customer, but noted the victim was not someone who looked for trouble. All he wanted to do was help. He didn't drink. He didn't do drugs. This is effed up. I hope they catch the bastard quick. Police released security camera images from inside and outside the deli. The man, they believe, pulled the trigger and are asking the public for help in identifying him. Unbelievable. Images showed the suspect wearing black pants, narrow metal-framed eyeglasses, and distinct varsity-style jacket with black and white patterned sleeves. Barry had worked for the deli for a long time, his mother said, and he previously been forced to deal with customers demanding free items. I knew that if it had to be over something stupid because I know his heart. He was a beautiful person. The United Bodega Workers America has offered $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the scumbag who murdered this young man, 37 years of age, murdered over a $2 cigar. The world's biggest music company, Universal, is in a battle with TikTok, and this will destroy TikTok, who rely heavily on snippets of music from top performers. Universal's showdown with the platform is testing the value of the seconds-long song snippet and who has the most power in today's music industry. Gwen Stefani wanted her new song to have its day. The No Doubt frontwoman and star solo artist planned to release a duet with husband Blake Shelton earlier this month and promote it with a pre-Super Bowl performance. A week before the release of Purple Irises, her label's parent company, Universal, took the unusual step of pulling all its artist songs off of TikTok after reaching a stalemate in contract negotiations with the social media platform. The move meant that Stefani's song couldn't be released on TikTok and short videos promoting it on the app. A ritual that's become a core element of marketing new music releases were a no-go. So she came up with an alternative, and it has been played millions of times, and the song is selling it crazy. Yep. Well, nearly all U.S. new power plants will be so-called clean energy, which there's no such thing. Renewables, not clean. Batteries, very dirty. And nuclear, relatively clean, will add up 96% of all power capacity constructed this year. So here's your chart. 58% of installed capacity. America will add 62.8 gigawatts of electrical power generation in 2024. 62.8 gigawatts. On a good day, South Africa can provide South Africans with about 30 to 35. So nearly double the total operational capacity of South Africa's electrical grid will be installed as new capacity in 2024. 58% of which will be solar, 23% is battery storage, 13% is wind. I don't know how battery storage counts as power generation. Batteries don't generate the power. They release power. So that's just a misnomer and a lie right there. Wind, gas, 4%, and nuclear, 2%. Yep. It's a big year for power plant construction. U.S. is slated to build 55% more capacity than it did in 2023, with 62.8 gigawatts expected to be added this year, the most built in any year since 2003. Yep. So there you go. Now, this is a frightening prospect. This is very disturbing here, folks. Very disturbing. This sounds like South Africans. It sounds like Europeans. Very disturbing. 1/3 of American adults say that the First Amendment goes too far. It's too generous. That people shouldn't be allowed to say what they want to say. Can you believe that? This is frightening. This is what happens when you undermine civics. Americans have a constitutional right to express themselves freely, but a new poll finds that they may want to limit that freedom to those who offend them. For those who offend them. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression from Dartmouth's Polarization Research Lab reported Tuesday that 31% of adults surveyed said the First Amendment goes too far in the rights it guarantees. Nearly a third of Republicans and a third of Democrats say they completely or mostly agree with the statement. Wow. Survey also found that most respondents wanted to ban public speeches and college professors from expressing the ideas that offend them. Responding to a list of controversial statements that the First Amendment protects, 19% of respondents described all whites are racist oppressors as the most offensive, making it the one that most wish to censor. Several other expressions followed close behind this are on the most offensive list. 18% named America got what it deserved on 9/11. 12% flagged January 6th was a peaceful protest. 11% chose abortion should be completely illegal. In other words, these scumbags who are anti-American, but they're American citizens apparently, believe that if you say January 6th was a peaceful protest, you should go to jail. You should be censored. 52% of respondents said their community should ban public speeches promoting the statement they deem most offensive. That is shocking. Another 69% said their local college should not allow a professor who promoted the idea to teach classes. What? 70% of people said that professors shouldn't teach a subject because it offended them? Where did this come from? Why are people afraid of ideas? Why are people afraid? You don't have to listen to things that offend you. Here's a little hint for you. Shut up. Just ignore it. Wow. Other key findings. Ask whether people are able to freely express their views. 69% said free speech in America is headed in the wrong direction compared to 31% believe it's on the right track. Well, that 69% is correct. Censorship by social media, censorship by the government, violating the Constitution is a serious concern. 25% of adults describe the right of free speech today as either very or completely secure. Well, they're delusional. It's not. And 29% said it's not secure at all. They're more on track. Nearly half of Democrats and 26% of Republicans describe free speech as headed in the right direction. More than a third of Republicans said free speech is already secure. Wow. 72% said employers should not fire people who express beliefs from their jobs. Well, I agree as long as it doesn't go on a government site or they don't speak about their employer. Or not a government site, a company site. Yep. Well, Sopranos star Dre DiMatteo, she played the love interest who eventually got executed on that show. Here she is, Dre DiMatteo. There she is. So she's opened up about why joining OnlyFans and how it saved her from economic hardship. The Sopranos star, who's 52 years old, joined the adult subscription-only website in August. She said in an interview with the Daily Mail, published on Tuesday, that she was on the verge of losing her home and had only $10 in her bank account before posting content on OnlyFans. She said, OnlyFans saved my life, 100%. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it really did save us. She previously revealed that she was unable to get work in Hollywood after she was blackballed over her refusal to get the spicy cough jab. So Dre DiMatteo chose her medical freedom, and she's been blackballed by scumbags in Hollywood. They put me into foreclosure. My house had flooded, and so I was trying to sell the house quickly. I wanted to try and sell before they took it. At the time, I lost my mom, and my other mom, who has dementia, had run out of money for her caregiver. I didn't know which way was up, so she lost all her money because she was taking care of her parents. The actress said within 5 minutes of posting to OnlyFans, she made enough money to pay off her home and launch a streetwear brand as a secondary source of income. Anybody that wants to condemn me and put me down, go for it. I just hope you never find yourself in the position I was in to take care of 2 little kids. Now, Mateo shares daughters Alabama Gypsy Rose, who's 16, and son Waylon Albert Blackjack, who's 12, with her ex, Shooter Jennings, the country musician. Yep. So, she was a regular on Sopranos for the first 5 seasons. She won an Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a drama series where she played La Severa. Yep. Anyway, yeah, so that's Dre DiMatteo had to turn to OnlyFans to survive because she was blackballed by scumbags in Hollywood because she refused to get the spicy cough jab. Wow. Yep, let's see what's going on in the chat here, folks. Welcome to the program. Let's see what we've missed here in the chat over the last several minutes here. Anything? No, we're back at the beginning there. Jan Fion's here. Robot Trucker's here. Yep, it's been a while. Where have you been, Robot Trucker? Why have you been missing in action? We will send a team out to find out what's going on with you. Gavin Comer's here. Dylan Combrick. Chris Marie. Just hides money in the couch. Yep. Marilyn Brokenshaw's here. Garrett is here. Brian Lordson. Can't have Inconla for Zoom. It must have a bigger and better one of the king and 2 fire poles. Exactly. Yep. Hester Kotza. Ashley Engelbrecht. Hot Cape Town. A couple of fires. Yep. So, where else? Ants is here. Good to see Ants. Ken Aronston. BE lives on. Allison Johnson. I've been MIA in hospital. Allison, you're in hospital. I hope you're okay. I hope it's nothing severe. And what's going on? That little spot right there is not quite right. Got to sort out that hair. I hope that you're okay, and I hope that you recover quickly in hospital. I'm sorry to hear that, Allison. I see some folks already saw that Allison posted that and wishing her a speedy recovery. Yep. Okay, Wolf K is here. Charles Van Onselen, Nick Muller, scientists. Acidzil. Did you see the news about Jocelyn Smith? I don't know who Jocelyn Smith is. Acidzil, could you tell me? Trevor Bush. Next, they'll send us to prison for murdering sperm cells. We're all going to jail, says Mark Sayers. John Hutchins in from Arizona. John's been missing a lot lately, too. Escom should take lessons to add capacity. Indeed. What's going on with Bitcoin? Lots of Bolsheviks in the USA. Very frustrating. Agreed. They're getting desperate, going extreme methods to remove your First Amendment. They are, Maryland. They really are. John Hutchins says he didn't learn about civics till he watched the movie Police Academy. Okay. Ronaldo, what's that link? Is that to our program? Ronaldo, what's going on there? Let's see. Yeah, Wednesdays with the Colonel. There's the link. Okay, so we'll be up there at the top of the hour. Ronaldo popped in here a few minutes ago. Don't know if he's still here. The father and his friends were on tick when she went missing. Oh, is that the young girl, the beautiful little girl with the blue eyes, colored girl in the Western Cape? I'm sorry. Yeah, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, Ronaldo's here. Ronaldo says, hello to everyone. Hey, folks, give it up to Ronaldo. In fact, I need to do the redirect now because I had not, Ronaldo's a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. And I had not seen him respond to making sure we're doing the show. But apparently we're doing it. So let me just go ahead and make sure that you get redirected automatically to Ronaldo's show after this thing ends. Here's the redirect. Why is it not? Come on. There you go. Upcoming. All right. So you'll be automatically redirected after this broadcast to Ronaldo's Wednesdays with the Colonel. I'm looking forward to that. And after that, if Ronaldo could do it, if he could direct you back to my Kanako, right after that, we have back-to-back broadcast today. I've got this broadcast, Ronaldo, then Kanako with Dumodenga and Koketso Rezani. Then I've got attend an event with State Representative Dawn Kiefer, who's running for the Senate here in Pennsylvania, and her seat she's vacating is the one I'm running for. And then I've got to zip over to the VFW to do a end of the Gulf War. Today is the 33rd anniversary of the end of Desert Storm. We do a commemoration recognition ceremony there. And after that, I've got to have an emergency meeting with the board members about staff. And then I've got to jet back because I already will have missed 1 hour of my radio broadcast, but my colleagues will be carrying the water for me. So busy day. Also approved a new poem card, a longer one here than this one here, with more information on the back. It shows many of my achievements since I'm running on my experience and success. So, yep. Anyway, yeah. There's Erica saying, Allison, get well soon. Yeah, please. Allison, I'm sorry to hear you're in the hospital. Shawnee says you're not going to have any time to eat. Wow, it's a busy man. Oh, Shawnee, I ate last night at 8:30, I think, for the first time. I didn't have breakfast. I didn't have lunch. I ate at 8:30 last night, and I felt kind of crappy. I went and had my second shingles jab on the day prior, and I felt a little uneasy. I don't feel 100% today. I feel about 80%, but yesterday I felt about 65%. Was feeling pretty down. It was difficult to get through the day, and I'm dealing with people. In fact, I just didn't feel like doing anything, but it was tough. But anyway, you got to move on. That's what soldiers do. Servant leaders drive on. They suck it up, buttercup, and move on, even when things don't go particularly well. So anyway, yeah, just that's that's today's schedule. Tomorrow's schedule is also packed. Friday's schedule is filling up. And then on top of this, I finally, after 40 years of asking for the Army to look at my hip issue and really pushing the Army for the last 10 years I was in the Army, 5 years in particular, being ignored, and now being ignored in retirement for nearly 4 years, I finally have a primary care physician who took it seriously and set up a referral for physical therapy. I went to a physical therapist on Monday, and while it was painful, the exercises to strengthen the leg and the hip, I was pain-free the next day. Well, I'm in pain again, but that's because I didn't last night get the chance to do the exercises. So, so that's also happening. I've got 2 physical therapy appointments every week for the next 3 weeks. It's a lot going on. Also, on March 13th, there'll be a debate. I'll be participating in a debate with the other Republican contenders for this seat, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll go very well. No. Erica had shingles. Ugh. No thanks. My father had it at 82, and he looked miserable. Yeah, so with the shingles thing, for those who don't know, they came out with a vaccine over 10 years ago, about 15 years ago, and I was in Africa. I came back to the Army, and I came back here, and I was 50, and it was recommended for people over 50. So I went and asked if I could get it. They gave it to me, and then only to find out a few years later that it's only 15% effective. Well, gee, thanks for that. So, yeah. Yeah, my mom had shingles last year at 82. Yeah, exactly, Chris May. It's horrible. It's painful. It's very, very debilitating, and it sucks. I mean, you already had chickenpox. Why should you suffer again from that stupid virus? So they developed a new vaccine, and that vaccine became available a few years ago. And this one they claim is about 80% effective, 85% effective. So it comes in 2 doses. I got the first dose the first week of December, and I promptly got sick. Not related to the vaccine. I picked up some pathogen, Chinese bioweapon from all the people sitting around the clinic. But when I was at the clinic yesterday or Monday, it was empty. There was nobody there. I mean, literally nobody. Usually there are dozens of people sitting in the clinic hacking and coughing and wheezing away during the wintertime, but nobody there. So I went and got the second shot, and she cautioned me. She said, there can be after effects. I said, well, I didn't, or side effects. I said, I didn't have any side effects the first time from the jab. I got sick, but had nothing to do with the jab. Said, yeah. So she goes, well, you can have like mild flu-like symptoms, yada, yada, yada. She stuck the needle. I'm like, ouch, that hurt. It was a big jab of fluid, went in my left arm. It's still sore 2 days later. And then the next day I was feeling cruddy and run down. So I'm still there. Yeah, no, you're right. You got to keep up the exercise. Well, the physio didn't tell me it was daily. He was very unclear. He rushed me out of there. He didn't tell me, how many to do. He gave me the sequence of sort of exercise I need to do, but he didn't say how many reps. So I don't know, 5 reps, 10 reps. What's the right number to get started? I figure 5 is probably enough. Don't want to overdo it. But yeah, so I will be doing that. So anyway, yep. Will we get a link for the debate? Hendo, I don't know. I asked if they're going to broadcast it, and they seemed a little confused. They finally just last night produced the flyer for it, and I can't share it. It's got a moratorium, but I did get it last night. Let me see. It looks pretty good. Yep. Doors open at 5:15. The event is at 6 p.m. So got the moderators listed. I don't know who the moderators are, so we'll see. Yeah, I'm hoping it's a fair debate. It's supposed to be an hour and a half. I'm hoping it goes well. I hope the fix isn't in. I'm not claiming it is, but I've been discovering an awful lot of stuff when it comes to politics where the fix is in. Listen, somebody smartly suggested to me that I go to retirement facilities and meet people because they tend to vote. Well, I went to a retirement facility here in town, and I asked the assistant director if I could, come to their public meeting room and have a meet the candidate sort of thing. She said, no, can't do that. So since these elderly people never leave the care facility except to go vote or mail-in vote, how are people supposed to reach these people to ask them to vote for you? I mean, that's morally bankrupt in my mind. I'm not selling anything. Why can't this is part of the problem with what's going on in this country. I saw this when I went to one neighborhood in the district. This is while I was getting signatures during the petitioning signing period. And what happened was I had gone through the previous day, gotten signatures. I came back the next day because it had gotten dark, and I went through one street, but it was daytime. So I only got a handful of signatures. I met some interesting people. And as I was almost finished, I got near the end, down this one street. I rang a doorbell. No one answered. I walked away. I start walking down the street, and some guy comes out all snotty. What did you want? I said, oh, I'm sorry to disturb you, sir. I was just trying to get signatures on my petition. Your wife is a registered Republican, and I'd like to see if she'd be willing to sign my petition. You can't solicit here. I said, I'm not soliciting here. I'm trying to get signatures on my petition to appear on the ballot. Well, you're bothering people. I said, well, I'll leave, sir. It's not a problem. Yeah, you can't be here. This is private property. And for that, I just stopped and paused. And what do you mean by private property? It's on a public street maintained by the city and the county or the township. So I didn't say that. That was all in my head. And he said, yeah, there's a homeowners association. It's all labeled. You can't come in here. There's a sign that says this. You can't come in here. You're committing a crime. I said, I'm not committing a crime. He said, you can't solicit here. I said, I'm not soliciting here. I'm not selling anything. I'll be happy to leave, sir. There's no reason to be angry. I'll leave. And he just kept yelling at me. And I finally just walked away. I said, have a good day. And he just kept yelling at me. I got my car and left. I drove out, and I drove around the entire little development, and I double-checked. There isn't a single sign indicating it's a homeowners association, not a single sign saying no soliciting. Those residents who did want solicitors put little signs on the door. But again, I'm not soliciting. What I'm doing is perfectly legal under our legal system to get signatures. And it's very frustrating to run into this sort of nonsense. There are people who intentionally prevent those who are trying to represent the public from reaching the public so that the entrenched political parties can get their favorite candidates. That's my supposition. I'm not bothering people. If I knock on your door and you ask me to go away, I go away. If you don't want to listen to me, I go away. If you're rude to me, I'm not rude back to you. It's just really pathetic and frustrating. So, how are you supposed to reach these people other than flood their mailboxes with postcards and mailers and stuff like that? It's really, really a system set up to ensure that the elites continue to govern. Those who want to help this country survive, who are not elites in connected political parties are at a severe disadvantage by a system set up that's frankly overwhelmingly corrupt in my view. Overwhelmingly corrupt. Yep. Welcome to Political Space, Chris. It's normal Tuesday in our lives. Yeah, Ronaldo, I don't disagree with you. But I mean, this is simply so morally bankrupt, this whole concept. It's morally bankrupt. It really is frustrating. So the next thing is churches. A lot of candidates go to churches. Now, I'm contacting churches and asking if I can speak to their congregants after the services and see how that goes. But there's only so many Sundays, right? You got to go to church. I don't know which churches to pick, the big ones, the small ones, who's going to be friendly. So it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. You're not allowed to politic at events. Last night, I went to a school board hearing for the local school district, and this one was important because the issue of outside counsel being hired over the issue of transgender use of bathrooms. And so I went to see what people were saying, and I ran into two other candidates, one of whom was on the school board, and I noticed he was peeking to see if he recognized who I was, because he doesn't know who I am, but apparently must have seen a photo or two of me now. So I think he was like, is he here? And then the other political party opponent was there too, and not a very friendly guy, very rude. I was sitting down at a table talking to people, and they stepped aside. He happened to be around there, stood behind me. I didn't mention anything about running for office or as being a candidate or anything like that. I just happened to be sitting there at a like a lunch table waiting to go into the meeting before it started. And he came up and I recognized him, but he turned his back to me to talk to someone else, and greeted them. So I wasn't intruding in his conversation. And the other guy's talking about, well, how many are in the race? And he said 5. And he said, well, who are they? And they mentioned a couple. And then I saw him reach behind and point at me like this. Very rude and disrespectful. If I was your political opponent, I would tell people, yeah, if I was in this circumstance, this is what I would have done, talking to the person. Yeah, no, there's 5 candidates in my race, and then there's the Democratic contender. In fact, here he is. There's the Democratic contender right here. Hey, you want to meet? That's what I would do. But then I'm just a normal, moral, good person. So anyway. Yeah, well, youth groups, there is no such thing as youth groups. There's nothing here. Folks, we don't have a single shopping mall in this entire district of 65,000 people. You have to understand that we are outside the urban areas, but adjacent to it. So everything that people need is there. It takes me 10 minutes driving north from where I live to another district, which is just over the border, which is where the first shopping mall is at. That's the Capital Cities Mall. And Gettysburg is 25 miles, 40 kilometers away. York is the same distance away. There are no cities in this entire district. They're all boroughs and townships. There are no big towns. So there are no major events or activities where you can go to. So it's very challenging, particularly when there's so many people in the race. Well, Erica, there are prohibitions on going to high schools and speaking to high school students. Plus, there's almost no students there who are eligible to vote. So it doesn't really gain. No, we don't, scientists. We don't have any shopping malls here. We have a couple shopping centers. There's one here locally, just down the road, where there's a grocery store and a Subway and a Tractor Supply store. But it's a shopping center, not a shopping mall. Shopping centers are not conducive because people go in each store individually. A shopping mall is different. You go to a mall, you've got big hallways that are covered and open spaces where people meet, and you can get restaurants and coffee shops and things like that. But here, everything is a separate individual store, and you park outside. So I do go there frequently to pick up a Starbucks, and I've got these huge magnets that I put on my doors of my car, and hopefully that's having an impact. But one of my opponents is independently wealthy and has lots of money and is putting up 4x6 signs all over the place. Also, I've discovered, it's frustrating when people lie to you. If you don't want to help my campaign, that's your prerogative. But it is pretty stupid if you never even talk to me, but that's your prerogative. People can be as dumb as they want, except in Zimbabwe. You can be as dumb as you want. But recently, someone who is friendly to me and has actually got a couple of my signs in their yard said they knew someone in a very prime location in this district along a highway where I could put a sign or put signs up. And everybody passes this. Everybody that goes between here and Maryland, everybody. On this side of the district. So I said, great. And the person went and contacted, and they said, well, no, we don't want to be involved in politics. We're not putting any political signs up. Well, yesterday I drove down, was it yesterday or the day before? The day before. I drove down to Hanover, which is south of here in another district, to go to an event unrelated to what I'm doing. And on the way out of this town, local town, I drove down, and there's a 4x6 sign of my opponent that's sitting on the spot where the people said they don't want political signs. Look, it's your prerogative. It's your land. You can do what you want, but don't be a freaking dirty ass liar. I don't care for liars. There's no reason to lie to people. No reason to lie to people. Setting up your own what? At shops might work. What is she saying? Table. No, you can't go on private property and just do things. It's very frustrating. And you know what? It'd be nice if somebody in the political party would say, hey, you can do this. They've offered no help whatsoever in this respect. Yep. No, there's no online signatures, Yvonne. Yvonne Brink. No online signatures. Not allowed to do that. So let me put this up very quickly. So for those who don't know, I'm running for the state legislature in Pennsylvania. It's a very time-consuming and expensive process, by the way, folks. Very time-consuming. So when we wrap up here in a few minutes, you'll be directed automatically over to Wednesdays with the Colonel with Ronaldo. Let me go ahead and get set up for that. I'll get my earpiece here. I quit using the headphones because the stupid cushion ripped again. I bought new ones. Found them from a third-party supplier online for my Bose headset. So I haven't been using those for a while now. I prefer to use these because it drowns out all the noise, but the problem is these stupid things are crap and they tear all the time. I mean, the headphones are great, but these things here, one of these is torn, or did I change it again? Let me see. Oh, I guess maybe I changed it again and they are working. Okay. Yeah, I used the last one. So these this leather here, or faux leather, tears and then it hurts your ear, particularly if you have big ears like I do. So I haven't used these in a while. Let me see if the light, the battery's even good. Yeah, the battery's good. Well, maybe I can go with that instead of these because I don't really care for these earphones so much. Let me try it and see it. And it'll probably just rip on me again, which sucks. But yeah, I bought these, I think, duty free on a flight one time, where I bought it at one of the shops in the airport. Can't remember which. But they're really good canceling out the noise and really nice. As long as the battery's in there working. But they're not rechargeable. I have some Beats rechargeable ones, but they're not noise canceling. And they're just kind of annoying. So I don't like the Beats ones. Anyway. Yeah, so I'll try that for the next show. But tune in for us. Stay right here, and you'll be directed over there. And I'll be having, as I said, new palm cards coming out. Also, some campaign stuff coming soon. So, love the T-shirt. Yeah, Patrick says, there you go. Yep, 1902, Solidarity Trade Union. Ronaldo and I are going to talk about the upcoming election, events unfolding in South Africa, probably a little bit about the U.S. here. And then after that, it'll be Kenako with Koketso Retsani and Dumodenga. And we'll be talking about South Africa. And if they want to talk a little bit about the U.S., I'm happy to do that. But we'll be talking about South Africa and all that's unfolding there. It's crazy. It's a big election year. I saw somewhere like almost 4 billion people are in countries where elections are being held this year. That's crazy. That's crazy. Get Trump's endorsement. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? But Trump doesn't endorse state-level candidates. Huh? When this woman going to give up, or is she know more than us that Trump... What woman, Stuart? What woman are you talking about? You talking about Fannie Willis? Letitia James? Charles wants me to get Trump's endorsement. Well, it's not as simple as that. Anyway, kiss the babies. No, Nick, people won't let you kiss their babies anymore. Yeah. Hey, George Steinberg, how you doing there, brother? You are a Spanner? I don't remember giving you a Spanner. Wow. Forgot about that, George. Patrick is here. Yep. So, anyway, last night in Michigan, Donald Trump won convincingly. He won 68% of the Republican vote. Yet CNN portrays it as troubling waters for Trump. Remember that in Iowa, Trump won 51%. He won all but one county. He lost that county by a single vote. That's where the University of Iowa is at. He won Polk County, which is where Des Moines is at. He won Story County, which is where Iowa State University is at. He won every county except the one where University of Iowa is at. 51% of the votes went to Donald Trump in a multi-candidate race, which is incredible. He had the largest ever margin of victory for a Republican in the Iowa caucus, in a contested caucus, in the history of Iowa caucuses going back to 1970. Yet the media portrayed it as a loss. Then he defeated Nikki Haley in New Hampshire, 54%, I think it was, to her percent. And they called that a loss. But of course, it was an open primary. And we know that a large number of the votes that she got, as much as half or more, were Democrats or independents who changed their party affiliation to tank the election. But Trump still increased his percentage. Then he went to South Carolina. In South Carolina, he got 65%, 66%, or 65%. Now, excuse me, yeah, 62%. So it went from 51 to 56 to 62. And in Michigan last night, he got 68, almost 69% of the vote. Yet the media portrays it as a loss. Trump is increasing his percentage in every single election that goes along. Yet they choose to portray it as some sort of loss for Trump. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense unless you realize that the media are dishonest. Dishonest. Now, Joe Biden had 110,100 votes against him last night. By the way, Biden got fewer votes in his primary than Trump did. But, I mean, you could easily explain that because there's not a lot of enthusiasm for Biden, even if he was a popular president, because it's not necessary. People know he's going to win it. He's the only real candidate in the race, Marianne Williamson, and the other guy really don't register. So, but 110,000 Michiganders voted uncommitted in a protest vote to send a message to Joe Biden about Gaza and about his presidency in general. Now, the media are painting that as if Biden's in trouble. Well, he could be in trouble, or it could simply be that most of these people will return to the fold in November. What is interesting is the anecdotal stories of a voter here and a voter there, where the media have talked to voters like Christian Arabs and Muslim Arabs in Michigan who said they're not going to vote for Biden. They're going to vote for Trump no matter what. But we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All right, so very hot day in Cape Town. Wow. Overcast in Durban. Well, I have to say this, folks. The weather here is lovely. I'm glad that I'm not in South Africa at the moment because I would be cooking. Excuse me. Current temperature here is 60 degrees. The rain sucks, but 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So 60 is probably going to be about, what, 8 or 9 Celsius or maybe 10, somewhere around there. That's very nice for me. That's almost perfect for me. 66 to 68 is my perfect temperature. Yep. Stuart Lennox is asking, when are you back in South Africa? Well, Stuart, that depends on a number of things. For those who don't know, who haven't tuned in a while, I am running for state legislature here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The primary election is on April 23rd here in PA, and until April 23rd, I'm decisively engaged with this event. If I'm fortunate and I win the primary, then that will determine what happens. If I lose the primary, that will determine what happens. So basically, if I win, then it will shorten the window that I can travel to South Africa, probably to 10 days to 2 weeks for the elections in May. If I do not win, then I will probably come to South Africa for a month in May. Yep. Pip says PC is going to die. Loads crapping there. Okay, no humidity here in Durban. Okay. Well, for those of you still here, we appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and drop off now. You'll be automatically redirected to Ronaldo's channel, so please join us over there, and I'll wear my Bose headphones. And we'll see you in just a couple minutes on Ronaldo. Don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. It costs you nothing but a moment of your time, folks. It's very inexpensive. You just reach down there, hit that button.
That was easy.
And suddenly, you've liked the video. Be sure to leave a comment behind if you'd like. All that interaction does help, and we've seen a big uptick. You see here today, we had a peak of... What was our peak audience here today? We hit 80. Yesterday we had 90 or 119. So we've been habitually going between 80 and 120 daily for concurrent live viewers, and we're habitually hitting now over 800 to 1,000 plus live stream viewers. I don't know if YouTube is easing the censorship, or people are just finding us because I've been doing a lot of prepared videos lately. I'm not sure what it is, but whatever the case is, it's nice to see the audience is larger and more people showing up. Plus, a lot of people who've disappeared for a long time seem to suddenly be showing up lately. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm not going to complain. I'm happy for it. And a lot of people have been asking me, look, Chris, if you get elected, what's going to happen? Are you still going to do broadcasts? Yeah, unless the state tells me there's some sort of conflict of interest, which I can't imagine there is, I'll continue to do broadcasts. It's just a question of when I'll be able to do them. So anyway, but can't I stay in your yard? No, Dylan, doesn't work that way. Anyway, see you all on Ronaldo in just a minute. God bless. Be sure to hit the like button on the way out the door, and I'll see you guys later. Well, moments from now. Cheers.